Only when it turns 2.
Yeah. If I had some glasses, I'd be on 6 to. Good afternoon. Welcome to the meeting of the Northern Planning Committee. I'm Councillor Paul Wynne, Chairman of the committee. We're not expecting a fire drill today. In the event of the alarm sounding, please leave the building and gather at the front of the building. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. I'll also ask you to please ensure that mobile phones are switched off and to ensure the volume on your laptops is muted. To ensure the members of this committee and all the points raised by the public speakers are properly heard, I must advise you that I will not tolerate any disruptive behaviour. This is a meeting held in public, not a public meeting. If such behaviour takes place and persists, I will adjourn the meeting. Members should ensure that they are present throughout the meeting, as you cannot vote on any item if you have not heard all the debate. Our members and officers introduce themselves each time before they speak. For those listening, knows who is speaking. I shall ask now the members of the committee and officers to introduce themselves, starting with Nat.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Nat Green, Quarry and Coates and items to declare as well.
Yes.
Yes. I need to declare that I'm the division member for item 7, and therefore I shall be making statements and moving to the back of the.
Thank you, Nat.
Councillor for Basinhill, and also at the moment for Sutton and Holland. Hopefully that will be sorted soon.
Councillor Mary Davies, representing Abbey Division. I'm here as a substitute for Councillor David Asner, and I think I sent his apologies. And I've got a declaration of interest that I'm a twin-hatted councillor. I also sit on the Shrewsbury Town planning. And with regards to item 7, I have considered this in the past, but I am open today to look at the evidence put in front of me in order to make a decision.
Thank you, Mary, and welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Councillor Gary Burchett, divisional member for Pike.
Councillor Jeff Elner, the member for Ellesmere Urban.
Joyce Barrow, member for St Oswald.
Steve Connolly, councillor for Whittington.
Roger Evans, councillor for the London division.
Julian Dean, councillor for Port Hill.
Now the officers, Andy.
Andy Ridley, Policy and Environment Service Manager, here to assist with the historic environment matters in relation to item 7.
Councillor Planning and Development Services Manager.
Richard Denson, Senior Planning Officer.
Kelvin Hall, Principal Planning Officer.
Philip Molyneux, Development Manager, North.
Vince Hunt, not an officer, but a forgotten member. I'm Alan Maddock, and I'm the vice chair.
Okay, Kim Brown, solicitor.
Emily Marshall, Committee Officer.
Thank you for that. Right, item 1, appointment, apologies for absence, Councillor David Besmere, substitute by Mary Davies, thank you. Minutes to be confirmed for the meeting held on the 10th of October. I'll abstain, so I wasn't here, so closed. Yeah, second. Second, thank you. Now, sorry,
Chairman, I have a question if I can. I think it may be the best place to answer. Is that there was a meeting last week at which this committee sat. Decisions were arrived at. When will those minutes be available? Will it be before the 7 days before the next meeting? Because I am conscious that the applicant, Shropshire Council, have been stating various things in the media to say the planning permission was agreed. My understanding is it's been subject to further meeting of this committee. So I would like to see what the minutes actually state.
I think planning was passed, as it was passed, but it's coming back to us for conditions. That's how I read it.
If I can, Chairman, so the decision notice cannot be published until this committee sits again.
No,
I'll move it over to Kim now,
I think the conditions were going to come back to committee when I looked at a quick decision.
so that can't be announced until we've done conditions. That's what Roger's asking.
Permission can't be issued.
Issued until after that.
Tabitha.
Yeah.
So as we've met a lot of applications under section 106, so the committee has made the decision. It's just on this specific one, the conditions will come back, but the decision to approve has already been made. It was just agreed that the wording of conditions would be agreed, brought back to committee. That was all.
Right, thank you. We did jump the gun a bit before. Sorry, disclosure pecuniary interests. Nat's done that. Mary's done that. I've got one, item 6. I'm a local member. I'll say a couple of words and meet in the back of the room. Okay. So go on to item 5. Onwards planning application. Philip.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. As members will recall, this application was deferred from the October meeting of the Northern Planning Committee to allow for the expiry of the statutory period for comments and representations, as the application was subject to a reconsultation, and to give the applicants the opportunity to provide the additional information that officers considered was necessary. As you will recall, the officer recommendation was one of refusal. Members will be aware that this is a significant application that falls into Schedule 1 of EIA regulations. And as a consequence, the applicant has submitted a significant amount of further information covering ecology and ammonia emissions, landscape detail, and public highway access and improvements, as well as an addendum to the environmental statement in support of the application. Officers consider this information needs another reconsultation in accordance with EIA legislation and procedures. Therefore, officers recommend that this application is deferred to a further future meeting in order to allow the reconsultation to take place before a final decision on the application, which requires committee consideration. As being Schedule 1 development, it does not therefore comply with the council scheme of delegation to officers. And as it happens, just after I finished writing that, I received a late update from a member of the public, which basically has echoed what I just said. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm afraid that's been deferred. Until further notice, we're not putting a date on it until we've got all collated all the information. But we're not saying it's coming back in the next meeting, it could be the one after. And we have to vote for. So we have to have a vote to defer. Anybody proposing? Thank you, Gary. Seconded. Thank you, Roger. All in favour? Thank you. Right, moving on to Land North West of the Old Smithy. I'll be handing over to my vice chair as I'm a local member.
So you're going to make us take this. How do you?
No, I'll do.
Okay. Right. Item 6 is the land south of, as you've heard, the Old Smithy, Longslow Market Trading. Yes, which officer is going to present? Just Richard.
Thank you. This is an outline application for a 2-storey dwelling in Longslow Settlement, which is located approximately 1 kilometre from the northwest of Market Drayton. The application is to consider the principle of the dwelling on the site and the consideration of the suitability of the access. The site covers an area of 0.14 hectares, and an indicative layout plan has been submitted to demonstrate the provision of a dwelling, a parking area, and amenity space, which could be provided on the site. However, members should be aware that the layout, scale, appearance, and landscaping of the dwelling would form part of a reserved matters application and is not for consideration this afternoon. Longslow forms part of a community cluster with Bletchley, Longford, and Morton-Say, and allows infill residential development on appropriate sites. Longslow does not have a settlement boundary, and officers considered the settlement is a loose-knit settlement which is centred around a looping road. This includes dwellings which are separated by small areas of agricultural land. Members are required to consider the suitability of the site in context with the existing residential development within the settlement. I'd like to draw your attention to paragraph 6.16 of the committee report regarding the housing supply in the community cluster, which indicates a guide of 20 dwellings in the cluster. Longslow has gradually grown over the plan period since 2015 with an additional 7 dwellings. This application would provide 1 further dwelling. Policy MD3 of the SAMDEV plan does allow for an increase in housing supply, and paragraphs 6.17 and 6.18 outlines the officer's consideration of the benefits this dwelling would provide. The site is within a sustainable settlement as defined by the MPPF. Officers acknowledge the parish council concerns regarding the access and flooding. However, the submitted plans indicate a suitable access with appropriate visibility displays which can be achieved and will not lead to highway safety concerns. The council highway officers raised no objection subject to safeguarding conditions as indicated in paragraph 6.53 of the committee report. Officers also acknowledge the parish council concerns regarding flooding, although the site is within flood zone 1, which is an area of low probability of flooding. A detailed topographical survey has been included with the application and indicates that the dwelling would be positioned on land 1 metre higher than the existing pond on site and 1.4 metres higher than the existing drain in the highway. The council drainage engineer has raised no objection to flooding or drainage issues of the site. The existing pond on site is being retained, and the ecology officer has raised no objection on ecology grounds to either great crested newts, bats within any trees, and any other ecology matters. The development will result in 2 Category B trees and 3 Category C trees being lost. However, these are not protected and are not within a conservation area and form part of a larger group of trees which would remain. The indicative layout provides the provision of 7 replacement trees which would provide long-term amenity value. The proposed plot falls within the ownership of the old smithy, which is a Grade 2 listed building. Section 4 of the committee report addresses these concerns about potential impact on this heritage asset. No objection has been raised from the conservation officer regarding the principle, and any impact on the setting will be considered as part of a reserved matters application where the scale, design and layout of the dwelling would be considered. In conclusion, officers considered that the site forms part of the settlement of Longslow and the principle is acceptable, whilst it has been demonstrated that a safe means of access can be provided. This application is being recommended for approval, subject to conditions set out in Appendix 1. And I'll just go through the slides. The slide we have on the screen at the moment shows the settlements. Marked in blue are the 7 dwellings which have been previously approved within the settlement. The site in red to the lower part is the proposed site. The L-shaped building to the south of that with the yellow surround is the old smithy, which is the listed building. On the next slide, please. This block plan, site plan shows the existing layout. The blue splodge to the northern section of it is the existing pond with the green outlines of trees within the site. Next slide, please. This is from the tree survey showing the position of the trees within the site. Predominantly, there's a wide band to the north with less to the south. Next slide, please. This slide shows that the trees within the centre of the site and close to the access will be removed. The 2 Category B trees, which are close to the road, would be removed, and 3 Category C trees within the centre of the site. Next slide, please. This is the indicative layout plan, showing the position of a dwelling about 15 metres away from the roadside, a parking area in the frontage. The existing trees and pond along the northern boundary will be retained to provide the amenity value. Next slide, please. This aerial photograph just shows the context within the settlement. A large farm complex is to the right-hand side. There is the road that loops around from the north down to the south, and officers consider this forms the settlement of Longslow. As you'll see, there are pockets of open ground, trees in between properties. Next slide. This shows part of the site that will revolve the removal of the 2 trees. So the 2 trees that you can see, the one in the foreground and the one in the far distance, will be removed. The pond is located between the 2. Next slide. This is from the southern boundary of the open fields, showing some of the existing trees. The tree in the left-hand corner of the photograph will be removed. The trees to the rear will be retained. This shows the overgrown pond within the site, which will be retained. Next slide, please. And finally, this shows the pond in the far distance, which loops around to the right-hand side of the photograph. The tree in the foreground will be removed to facilitate the development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any pictures of the listed building, or
Not on the slides, no.
might be useful? But anyway,
There is a listed building.
yeah, all right. Okay, well, we do have a couple of speakers, the Morton Stays Parish Council, and then Councillor Paul Wynne, the local member. I believe they provided a written statement. So Kim, that's over to you to read, please.
Okay, the chairman and clerk of Morton Say Parish Council would like to apologise for not being able to attend this meeting personally due to prior commitments, but would like to reiterate the council's objections to this planning application. Morton Say Parish Council has serious concerns regarding both the access and flooding. The entrance to this property is on a very narrow lane with bad visibility, and the council is very concerned about the access. This land has bad drainage, with a drain under the road regularly flooding, and in bad weather, this area has continuous floods. Parish Council would also like to make the point that this planning application is within the curtilage of a listed building. For these reasons, Morton Say Parish Council objects to this planning application.
Thank you. Councillor Wynne.
Thank you. Yeah, Morton Say Parish Council has serious concerns you've just heard about the access and the flooding of the area. Local knowledge is very important in my mind and their minds, because they know every time it rains heavily, that road floods. So that's their main objection, and it is within the curtilage of a listed building. I'd just like to say Morton Say Parish Council do not object to all planning, and they only complain where really they feel strongly, and they have to give good reasons. They always listen to my advice, and normally I give the reasons. I say they're not strong enough, doesn't go any further, but I feel this time they've got a strong enough case. And if you are minded to approve this application, I hope you put a condition on that the culvert under the road is sorted out, if you're minded to approve it. Okay.
Thank you very much. We'll just give Paul a minute to move to the back of the room. Looking at hands, Councillor Gary Burchett.
Well done.
That was as big a clue as I could give you.
Thank you, Chair. First question I've got is on the pond. Are there any protections on future use of the pond? If thinking of the applicants using it for wild swimming, etc. Will the pond be protected in its current state, or do we have got this and that? And the second one is what Councillor Wynne's brought up. What are we doing about flooding? And is there any way we can force the drainage with the culverts to be clean and regulated to ensure that the land doesn't flood?
Okay, the pond is being retained on the application site. It currently differs in depths of water depending on time of year. As I understand, in winter time it fills up. In summer it does become quite dry. So the likelihood of it being used for wild swimming is probably going to be negligible. We have conditions regarding the protection of it. So we wouldn't expect that it would cause any damage to the ecology that's currently in the pond. Regarding the drainage, the application does refer, the report in section 6.9 refers to flooding. And yes, there are concerns about the drainage close to the road. And it does appear that this is a low point on the site. It is likely that the culvert is going to be getting blocked up, which is probably as a result of rainwater running down the road off the fields. Whether we can put a condition on to prevent that to be cleared, I mean, presumably it would be a highway culvert, and it would be up for the highway authority to maintain that and make that sure that that's kept free of any obstruction. So maybe it's something that we would need a discussion with the highways team to sort of see if they can sort of clean that out. In relation to the access, the roadside hedge is being removed. Visibility displays of 2.4 metres setback from the road can be achieved with 43 metres to the north and 40.5 metres to the south. Highways consider that this provides adequate visibility for emerging vehicles. It is a narrow road. Vehicles don't travel at fast speeds, and the highways officer has no objection to the application on highway safety grounds. Adequate space within the site can be provided for manoeuvring, so all vehicles will be leaving the site in a forward gear and will not be reversing onto the road.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burchett, do you want to come back on that at all? Or?
Just on the flooding, Mr. Chairman, if it's a Shropshire Highways issue, it's going to be there forever. If we don't maintain the culverts across all these country roads, this is going to be an ongoing issue. Is there anything we can do as the planning authority to make it more important that these culverts are kept clear?
Put bluntly, no. We can only deal with the application that's in front of us, and that's what we need to focus on. Rather than every highways issue in Shropshire, we can, what's black and white is what we've got to deal with. So, Councillor Barrow.
A question really for Andy Wigley. I know he doesn't normally get one, so I'll throw one at you. I do think the culvert should be sorted out, first of all. The historic core of the hamlet is in the Domesday Book, I believe, and early medieval origins. Now, I'm pleased to see there's a condition there of phased programming to make sure that anything there is found. How sure are you that it won't actually damage anything that you do find by doing this on the site and the integrity of the whole area?
Just to come back on that one, basically the condition is there to ensure that any archaeology that's present on the site is recorded before it's lost with the development. So I think the phased approach is an initial evaluation, so bench on the footprint of the dwelling itself. And then subject to the results of that, there may need to be further mitigation thereafter. If the results are negative and the site is clear, then obviously the development can proceed without that additional archaeological work. So it's a sort of calibrated approach to ensure that any archaeology that is present is recorded before it's lost. It's unlikely to be of sufficient significance to ensure, mean that development cannot proceed. So
you don't, can I come back?
Yes.
You don't anticipate that they'll find something and say, well, we can't touch this?
No. It's to ensure that it's recorded prior to loss.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Evans. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman. I agree with what the Chairman said, that we should pay attention to local opinion, especially parish councillors, when they come forward, and only go against them when there are planning reasons for it. I cannot see any planning reasons to go against what the parish council say and in favour of it. I do note what was said at the start in 615 and 616, when there are 39 places with applications to build, and the SANDEV quotes 20. That's almost 100% double of what is there. I haven't seen listed, I might have missed it, of what the local plan says. I do note that it's a cluster in the upcoming local plan, but to have 100% already there, and obviously the parish council is not taking the view that no more in my area, I am in difficulty and I cannot support this at the moment. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Looking around the room. Councillor Burchett.
I'm going to propose we set the opposite recommendation.
Is that seconded?
Seconded with the conditions that have been mentioned.
Is it happy to
Yeah. Sorry, that was that in non-board conditions as listed.
plus the condition about the culvert? I think that's
Yes.
what Councillor Barrow's referring to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what would you want that condition to say? Please?
I think there are better people here with the wording than I.
I would suggest something along the lines of the culvert is cleaned prior to any developments progressing and is maintained in a clean condition for at whatever period of time we can enforce it.
I'm not sure we can put in a condition that gets it maintained forever.
At least get a clean start with.
But I would agree that perhaps we could get one that the building can't commence until the culvert has been cleaned to ensure that the site doesn't become horrible sticky mess.
It does actually say that on the 6.81 on the drainage. It's recommended that both the foul and surface water drainage are conditioned accordingly for details to be submitted and approved prior.
It does indeed say that, but it's not a condition.
It's not a condition. It's in the.
We're looking into
Yeah, but we could make, we
as a
could just
condition.
adopt that and put that as a condition, surely.
Richard, advice?
Yes, Molyneux. Yeah, Philip.
Can I suggest that members are mindful to support this application, that they delegate authority to officers to look into this matter? I suggest we need to liaise with our drainage team, as if the culvert is right outside the access into the site, clearly it needs looking into. And rather than come up with a wording now, I would feel more comfortable consulting with our colleagues in drainage and highways, and if you can trust us to come up with a suitable wording condition.
Happy to, yeah.
Right, so. Okay, well, there has been a proposal with to go with the officer's recommendation based on what Philip has said, with the delegation to officers to work with the drainage team to look into the culvert, which apparently you can't see through at the moment, hence the flooding, but to look into it until they can see light on the other side. You happy with that, Philip?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favour, please show.
Sure.
All right. Okay, do a roll call.
Okay, so if you could indicate whether you're voting for or against the proposal that's been forwarded with the addition of that condition. Joyce Barrow?
For.
Gary Burgett?
For.
Steve Charmley?
For.
Mary Davies?
For.
Jeff Elner?
Or
Roger Evans?
Against.
Ed Clark?
for,
Julian Dean?
against,
Matt Green?
for,
And Vincent?
For. Thank you, members. That has clearly passed. We will now give it a minute for the chairman to return to his seat, getting me off the hook and him back on it.
Thank you, Vince. Right, moving on to item 7, which is car park, Baker Street, Shrewsbury. And Philip, you present it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, indeed. Right, this application proposes a mixed-use development to include an 83-bed hotel and 3 number retail units with associated car parking and landscaping on land forming part of a car parking area at Barker Street, Shrewsbury. The site forming part of the Shrewsbury Conservation Area. Some of the members will be aware of the site, having made a visit to it earlier this morning. Members' attention is drawn to the update sheet and the further letter of objection received, which doesn't raise any further issues to those as covered in the report. The additional condition to be attached to the approval notice, should members be mindful to support the officer recommendation. This condition in relation to window detail to ensure that they are recessed into the walls rather than flush with the walls. It's something I picked up on. Actually, myself was walking around Shrewsbury last Thursday with on council connected work. Also, we have received from the applicants an ecology and bat survey in respect of trees located outside of the application site proposed for removal as part of the landscaping enhancement. These are trees alongside the Rowley's house, and I'll show you them in the presentation later. Which are going to be subject to are recommended to be subject to Section 106 agreement. The bat survey findings considered acceptable. Right, the site location, I'll now run through the slides. Site location, as outlined in red, this is Barker Street and Clement Street here, the Baptist Chapel here, and here's Rowley's house and mansion on the northern side. Location in relationship to the surrounding built environment. existing site plan. Members will recall the site is currently forming part of the car park. And I'm sure all members would be very aware of this site, given its prominent location in the town centre. This is the proposed site plan, which indicates the development which is located alongside Foregate Street. Right then, this slide shows an existing extant plan permission for the site, which technically could be built out, and I thought it was interesting to bring this up to show you in relationship to the what's proposed. You notice the paneling, white paneling, and quite different in finished construction materials to what as proposed, subject to the current application under this consideration. That's I think that plan is in part of the planning committee report or the extant plan commission. Right, the proposed ground floor. It's on the ground floor. There's 3 retail units alongside Foregate Street here, and above the next floor hotel accommodation, as on the 3rd, and the 4th, which is the 3rd floor. Proposed east and west elevations. Obviously, this is one facing onto Foregate Street. This is the rear. Side elevations, Claremont Chapel here, that's the side alongside it. And then this is the side. Yes, that's the one on Claremont Chapel, yes. And then this is the one, getting a bit confused here, sorry. Yes, the south elevation. Next slide. Street elevations. And now coming on to some photographs of it, or what it'll look like in the surrounding street scene. I've got some marking up here. These are taken out of the applicant's design and access statement. Another street scene. As I indicated earlier, the application also includes landscape enhancement between the site and Rowley's house and mansion. I've got some photographs showing the existing trees for those of you concerned about lots of those. This one indicates proposed landscaping, which would be subject to section 106 as outlined in the report. Further landscaping. Right. Now, these are the indicative plans, which I think will be very helpful of the proposal and how it is envisaged it will look. You can see in the foreground there on the north side, Rowley's house. And this is looking down from the junction of Claremont Street, which is here, and you'll see the chapel up there on the side. That's a view looking onto Foregate Street. I wanted to go onto the south elevation because that wasn't very clear in my earlier presentation, but you'll see it there behind the tree, because it's dropped down here into 3 stories with consideration to the setting of Rowley's house. And then again, a better view with the landscaping. Right, that is the Rowley's house, which is situated on the northern edge. That's looking up from the north towards the site and Claremont Street. That's in the car park with the trees in front of Rowley's house. These are 6 white beam trees proposed for removal. One of them is considered a tree of some significance. The others are of low quality. The tree officer has been consulted, as you'll see in the report, raising no objection. And that's looking up the street again towards the site. Another one with Rowley's house, and I'm pointing this out now because I'm now coming up with an historic picture of the site, which shows it before demolition. And I believe the road, this obviously this is the terrace that's been demolished, and I believe it's part of the roadway now. And I pointed out to members during the site visit this morning, this is the building here on Bark Street, which is very similar, albeit no longer in the ownership of or trading as Shaw, but the window detail and the structure itself very similar today. And of course, this terrace down here taken away, and you'll see here, this is the Barker Street, the Claremont Street Chapel, alongside which the proposal is to be built. It is appreciated that this proposal has generated quite significant responses to the application from members of the public, mostly of who object, along with Shrewsbury Town Council, the Civic Society and Big Town Plan, for reasons as set out in the report. Also worthy of noting is Historic England's comments, as outlined in paragraph 4.3 of the report. However, it is considered that there are a number of material planning reasons to assess in relation to this application, and significant material reasons are the comments made by the Council's Conservation team, who have made extensive comments as outlined in paragraph 4.10, and it is clear these comments weigh in support of the application. Officers on balance consider the tests as set out in the NPPF with regards impacts on the historic environment are not engaged, as the development considered acceptable in relation to the surrounding designated heritage assets, and this includes impacts on the conservation area. Obviously, the site does form part of the conservation area. It is appreciated Rowley's house and mansion is Grade 2 soil listed and therefore very important historic structures. However, these structures did form part of an area much more densely built prior to demolition and clearance during the 1930s and 60s, as I've outlined. The site earmarked for redevelopment, and as indicated earlier, there is an extant planning permission on site. The landscape proposals as put forward by the applicants and removal of the white beam trees, 5 of which, as I've indicated, are considered poor specimens, which would need to be subject to a Section 106 agreement, as indicated in paragraph 6.57 of the report. These are all material reasons why officers believe sway in favour of support in the planning balance. It's also worth noting that there have been several amendments in the overall design as originally put forward by the applicants in a previous application, as well as the current one under consideration. Officers, having worked closely with the applicants and their architects to come up with what is considered reasonable solutions to comments made during the development process. Which will some consider loss of car parking a detrimental impact. Site currently provides parking provision for 93 vehicles, the car park which the site forms part of, whereas the proposal will provide for 27 spaces. The car park as existing is not considered a positive visual aspect to the surrounding area, and as indicated, was previously built over in accordance with the slides before you. Drainage issues are considered acceptable. In conclusion, it is appreciated there are significant various comments both against and in support of the application. Officers are satisfied with the overall planning balance in that the application can be supported, and as such, the recommendation is to delegate approval to the planning service manager, subject to a Section 106 agreement in relation to landscaping and the taxi drop-off and pick-up point, and the conditions as set out in Appendix 1 attached to the report, and any amendments as considered necessary to these conditions by the planning service manager. And this includes addition of the condition on window detail as set out in the update sheet for you. That concludes my presentation on this application, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. We have 2 speakers. First one, local member, Nat Green. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chair. Committee, there are many problems with this application. Despite stringent criticism from the Civic Society, the Big Town Plan and Historic England, it would appear that officers are prepared to accept this scheme simply on the basis that if you keep throwing mud at a wall, eventually something will stick. To have the scheme described in effect as better than a car park is a very low bar to clear, and the statement is not necessarily true in any event, particularly when the scheme will cause significant harm to the setting of one of the most iconic half-timbered buildings in Britain. All key historical environmental consultees have significant concerns with the scale of the design. It is simply too big for its plot. The client seems to be insisting upon 83 beds, as this has never changed in all of the iterations that have been produced. If that is Travelodge's economic break-even point, then Travelodge should find another site. The architectural detailing materials are excessively heavy around the roof, even after the redesign. The step down at Rowley's mansion end is tokenistic and does not mitigate the overbearing nature of the rest of the building. The detailing proportion of the gables does not seem to reference anything in Shrewsbury. The officer considers that this design meets SP5 high quality design. I consider that it does not. This scheme will undermine the emerging design code for Shrewsbury. This scheme smacks of a cynical attempt to rush through a design that would not comply with the design code or the big town plan. The developer must know this. This design code, by the way, is being paid for by central government. Officer claims that the emerging design code carries little weight, perhaps, but nonetheless there is still some weight to consider. Officer claims that the previous existence of buildings on the site justifies construction is wrong in planning law. As any planner knows, the previous historical existence of construction does not automatically allow you to build. The rather sniffy comments that it was only the removal of surrounding buildings that open up vistas of Rowley's house totally misses the point. They now exist and must be protected or properly mitigated. But in any event, no one is against the principle of development upon this site. This is not a motley crew of NIMBYs who don't want change, but simply the most influential authorities on heritage assets stating that this is the wrong design. The officers are on stronger ground when they point to an extant permission on the site. It is a far better design for the plot, indeed. In one of the many comments by Historic England, the point is made that this design sits far better in its location. Why did the owner not have the courage to make something of this design? Yes, the application has made, and I quote from the Civic Society, genuine attempts to improve the design. But to attempt is not necessarily to succeed. Where the officer's report states that Historic England has not objected outright to the development, but advising that planning permission rests with the LPA, that is not an endorsement, just simply a statement of the legal position. Historic England has made abundantly clear in its many responses to this application that it is deeply unhappy with the design. It can therefore be argued that the scheme does not meet DP23, conserving and enhancing the historic environment. I'd like to quote from MPPF Para 200, I paraphrase it slightly. Any harm to or loss of the significance of a designated heritage asset from development within its setting should require clear and convincing justification. Substantial harm or loss of B, assets of the highest significance, notably Grade 2 star listed buildings, should be wholly exceptional. Wholly exceptional development means it is, for example, required for national defence, public health, critical infrastructure. It does not include chain hotels. So this design does not meet SP5, does not meet DP23, does not meet Para 130 of the MPPF, or indeed paragraphs 195, 199, 200 and 202 of the MPPF. It is also in contravention of the Listed Buildings and Conservation Areas Act. This is not planning, this is a statutory obligation, not policy, and it's a criminal offence to contravene it. This application should be refused so that all of those involved can go away and think again. Thank you.
Thank you, Nat. Right, speaking forward, Mr. Ian Kilby, let's come forward, please. Afternoon, Ian. You've got 3 minutes.
Right, so I am.
You've got 3 minutes. I think you know how it works.
Thank you, Chair, Committee. My name's Ian Gilby. I'm the agent for the planning application, which is a resubmission, as you've heard, lodged following the withdrawal of the initial scheme, redesigned in collaboration with the council officers and other stakeholders. Case officer confirms at paragraph 6.1.8 that the scheme is acceptable in principle. He identifies the design and setting of listed buildings, in particular the setting of Rowley's house, as a key consideration, acknowledging that the design of the scheme, which has been revised twice while under consideration, will not cause harm to heritage assets. The Council's Policy and Environment Manager notes as relevant the extant scheme, a building similar in volume but taller than the current proposal illustrated in your report and referred to by the officer. His comments also reflect and consider the views of stakeholders, including Historic England, and conclude that the building would have a neutral or positive effect on the character and appearance of the conservation area. The Highways Officer acknowledges the sustainability of this town centre location and raises no objection to the reduction in parking proposed. Other policy and technical considerations have all been addressed and resolved. Clearly, the application has generated feedback from a number of stakeholders and the public. In addition to meetings with council officers, the applicant's project team has engaged directly with key stakeholder groups, including the Town Council, the Civic Society and the Big Town Plan Partnership Board. These proved helpful and informative, although it was clear that there were a number of different views expressed over the merits of the scheme. On occasion, these conflicted. The design reflects the form and grain of the historic townscape, observing the eaves line of Claremont and Bark Street frontages. It employs three principal materials that will stand the test of time: brick, stone and zinc. The elevations step down to follow the topography of Barker Street and set down further with a pavilion element facing Rowley's house. Big Town Plan objectives to drive connectivity through Mardle and to the West End are supported with the improved pedestrian link and off-site landscaping supported with a financial contribution secured with a Section 106 agreement. In terms of the economic considerations, the scheme would represent a £7.8 million investment. It would be built and owned by the Morrison Company, utilising local supply chain contractors. It's not a speculative scheme in that respect. The upper floors would be leased to Travelodge for a minimum of 25 years, and there are 3 commercial units proposed to create an active ground floor frontage. Travelodge acknowledges the significant opportunity for both business and leisure visits to the town centre, and anyone who visits the town at any time now at the weekends will see just how significant Shrewsbury's visitor economy is and how important it's been post-pandemic and as we emerge from a recession. The 83 rooms are considered to generate over 42,000 visitors annually, which could add a further £2.7 million of visitor spend to the local economy. In conclusion, the resubmission represents a positive opportunity to build on the aspirations of the Big Town Plan and provide a positive step towards delivering the regeneration of the site.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, Phil, you'd like to come back about anything that the speakers have said, or go straight into debate?
Not at this stage.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll be up to the floor. Gary.
Thanks, Chairman. Councillor Gary Burchett. If we come back to slide 58, you showed Foregate Street, and there's currently a pedestrian crossing right in front of the whole development. You're also proposing a taxi rank, a Section 160 taxi rank on Foregate Street. Will that affect pedestrian crossing, and if so, where is pedestrian crossing getting moved to?
So why did, excuse me asking, why did you want slide 58? Because it's right up in front of me.
No, maybe it was in that group of slides when you showed Barker Street. It didn't actually clearly show the pedestrian crossing.
Yeah, right, okay, I'll go to where you're referring to.
The actual pictures of Barker Street.
Right here.
Yeah, so there's pedestrian crossing there currently.
Yes,
yeah,
and it's a taxi pickup point on the corner here, isn't it? We have got the highway manager in the back of the room.
Yeah, because if the taxi pickup point's on the corner, it's actually within the curtilage of the pedestrian crossing, which would make it illegal to stop. So it would block the view of the pedestrian crossing. That's the highways plan.
Existing photograph outside. Hold on, please.
Right there, so you can see the pedestrian crossing right there, literally on the corner, and it's about 10 metres down from the corner of Barker Street and Claremont Street. So where's the taxi rank going to be able to pull up? Because it'll be within the zigzag lines of the pedestrian crossing, which makes it illegal.
I understand what you're saying now. Full site plan, if I can find it.
There's pedestrian crossing.
Here it is.
Yeah. What?
Is this where is it at this?
Under traffic law, 10 metres outside pedestrian crossing is illegal to stop for any reason. Because you're blocking the sight lines of pedestrians crossing the crossing.
Would the highway manager in the back room have anything to add to this? Because
The taxi rank is located adjacent to Wales.
yeah, where I've got my
Chairman, can the microphone be used?
Yeah, Mark, would you like to come forward, please? Julian, just pull the speaker a bit closer to it.
Use a taxi man.
Yeah.
The taxi rank is, if you move the cursor to the left hand side, is located adjacent to the.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so it's
You pointed to the corner of Oswestry and Clem Street for the taxi rank. That's what I was getting confused on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah, you did. So it's a Rugger's house, which would be fine.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, so that clarifies that.
Yeah.
It's not what we said, but okay, still on the floor. Thank you, Julian.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm going to propose that we reject this. My particular concern is over NPPF 130. So NPPF 130 talks about the need for development will function well and add to the overall quality of the area, visually attractive, sympathetic, and all that stuff. But my concern really, I suppose, is in the officer report, where all that is rejected with the phrase, it must be realised that the design codes, as referred to, remain in draft form, and that there isn't yet a master plan. But actually, NPPF 130 doesn't require those things. You know, we can make a decision based on 130. Yes, it would be lovely if there was a master plan. Yes, it'd be lovely if the design code was in place, but we can still apply NPPF 130 without those being in place. So I'm not happy with that comment on the report, and I think that 130, in addition to the points made by the local member, is a very strong case for us to say no, this doesn't meet the aspirations for the future of that area. It would have been lovely to have had a master plan already, but I don't think we actually need to make that decision. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Ted.
Chair, I'd like to second that proposal that we don't accept it. I'm particularly impressed with the level of opposition from the various different organisations within the town itself, established organisations, which I think we should take note of. I appreciate it's a very difficult situation and something needs to be done on that site. But I do feel the previous plan was the previous extant permission was far more attractive than this. I'm no aesthete, so I can't actually give you any design standards. As a final thing as well, I think everybody seems to have forgotten, perhaps it can get older, that was a bus station originally. That was the main bus station into the town.
Actually, yeah, I completely understand why this is a sensitive location. As one of the four members who managed the site visit this morning, and I know different people had different reasons for not being there, which I respect. I'm not having a dig, so don't anybody think that I am. It gave me a real opportunity to stand there and from the opposite side of the road and from the same side of the road and from the top end and from the bottom end next to Rowley's house to have a look at the current vista, which is frankly uninspiring. Obviously Rowley's house is in need of some works doing on it. And for me, looking across it, it really highlighted what does need to be done to that building. However, we're not talking about that. That's not the application side. Obviously, we've seen pictures of the extent one, and Ted and the local member have spoken eloquently about how they believe it looks better. But to a degree, that is subjective. having looked at the plans, for this building and understanding the amount of work that's gone into it, actually, I think this one looks nicer. I quite like this one. I think it will fit in there nicely, and providing the mix of trees. I know there are some concerns from the tree officer who has suggested using a specialist company who are used to putting trees into urban areas. I think it would, frankly, enhance the whole area. I'm also conscious of the fact that the nighttime economy and visitor economy of Shrewsbury has got to benefit from this. There will be people staying there. They wouldn't even thinking about doing anything like this if they didn't believe that there was the likelihood of filling up a significant number of those rooms. I don't know what their business plans is, and if 80+ rooms is what they require or anything else, but in a way that's not really for me to consider. I guess that they wouldn't build it until they think that it's going to be profitable. I don't mind it. I quite like it. I think that enough work has been done to mitigate the concerns that have been shared, and if I'm wrong in that, then I am sure that we will find out at some stage down the line. I'm not going to support refusal because I think that this will actually enhance that area. So should this one fail, I would probably move that we accept the officer's recommendations.
Thank you, Vince. I'd just like to back up Vince. The site visit this morning was very useful. Well, it's very useful to me and the members on it. The chapel there, it talks about the chapel. You read your papers, the chapel there, is significant. It's a concrete wall. I looked at it, I thought, very ugly. I presume it's falling down. They put a concrete wall up there on the gable end and the street face. It's exceptionally ugly. So I just wanted to make that point. It really is an eyesore. So this will enhance the area as far as that's concerned. Okay, Joyce.
Thank you. I too was on the site visit, one of the two. What I'd like to say is exactly the same as Vince. I totally agree with them. And I don't think I've ever said this before, but I actually agree with everything that the agent said. I think it fits in well there. Great for the nighttime, well, not just the nighttime economy, the economy of Shrewsbury. There's not enough hotel rooms to go around. People are scrambling for that. So I will not be supporting refusal. I will be going for approval.
Thank you, Gary. Sorry, Andy wants to come in.
Just a point of clarity in regards to the chapel. The only historic retained element to that is actually the facade on Clement Street. The rest of it was rebuilt as part of the previous scheme for the medical centre. So it's a sort of facade retention and a rebuild, and that is why that permission is commenced and extends. Just a point of clarity.
Thank you, Andy. Do you want to come back on the same point? I've got other speakers.
Well, I'm not going to say.
Go on then.
Yeah, no, but sorry, you can carry on.
Go on, right.
Thanks, Chairman. I just think we're all on Plumage, the historic part of Shrewsbury, but it's right next door to a concrete carbuncle of a market hall, right next door to it. We're focusing on Rowley's house as a historical aspect, but it's right next door to a concrete market hall. So anything at all built in any way similar to Rowley's house will enhance that area and not take away from it. And I will be supporting refusal.
Thank you, Gary. Would you like to come in on any point or? Okay. Oh, Roger, sorry. Okay, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. I will be supporting the proposal that's before the committee at present to reject this. If one looks at 6.2, well, I too remember when this site was a bus station. I can go back in Shrewsbury to that length of time. But Shrewsbury is an historic town. We need to preserve what we have, not start to destroy it. And this starts to destroy it. I can well remember going up and going to a flat in the old eye hospital up by St Chad's Church, going up there to see a lady there when she was concerned with Shrewsbury preservation. And she showed me the roofs of Shrewsbury and said we have a better variety of roofs, landscape than Chester. Why don't we do it? We've got a carbuncle, 4-storey carbuncle going on the site, which will also tend to destroy what is a star with us, Rowley's House, which is a grade 2 star building. I read 6.2.1. There is a statutory duty in section, etc., architectural or historical interest which possess, and then it goes on, against the grant of planning permission in instances where a scheme cannot be demonstrated to preserve listed buildings and their settings, and either preserve or enhance the character or appearance of the conservation area. I noted that it won't affect it. Does this harm it? Does it help it? It harms the whole area to me, this. And to say that it is better than the black tarmac that's there, which is mentioned in 6.2.14. Yes, it is better than the black tarmac there, but the black tarmac can be improved quite easily. This does not. And really, if it's there for 30 or 40 years, it is really going to destroy that part of the West End of Shrewsbury, which is one of our stars in Shrewsbury, and it is a historic town. Let's be proud of what we have. Rowley's House, man, Rowley's House. Let's have it there to do it, and not have a 4-storey building, which is almost a block, because that's in essence what it is. So I just cannot understand why this is being recommended for approval in the town when you see all these comments from Conservation Team, Historic England, Big Town Plan, all those who are creating and stating this does not help that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. Some good points made. I'd just like to make one point, which I forgot about, to be fair. There's already a planning application in and passed there for 4-storey building now. They can build that now. That has been passed. They could do that now, which is a good point because they could do that. That's been passed. So we're creating a better looking building, in my point of view, than what is already been passed. Okay. Right, there's no. Oh, sorry. Okay, Julian.
Sorry, Chair. Just want to prompt a response really from the officers to my point that I really think that 6.2.8, which is rejecting the Big Town Plan's arguments around paragraph 130, is not appropriate. It's suggesting that there's that NPF 130 would require some sort of master plan or design code, and I think that's an inappropriate way to have rejected the Big Town Plan's opposition there. I'd just like to hear from the officers on that point.
Okay, so
well, the design codes actually have very little weight at the moment. They're not adopted. They have not been adopted.
That's not my point. My point is that 130 doesn't require design codes, or and you're suggesting that it does.
I'd like to sum this up overall. This has been an application that's been before us, for officers for a considerable time. And I appreciate it raises a lot of different opinions. It has amongst officers during the negotiation. The first application was withdrawn because it was heading for refusal. And even the current application of the consideration has been amended on 2 separate occasions. We've looked at it extensively. I've discussed it extensively with our conservation team, who actually support the application rather than object, as Councillor Evans referred to now. And in conclusion, we consider it does meet the requirements of the NPPF, and I appreciate this is conservation is the key issue here today, hence the conservation manager sitting with us. And so I'm now going to defer to him to sum up from a historic point of view.
Thank you, Andy.
Yeah, just to come back to your point on the paragraph 130 argument. Clearly, it's a design that has split opinion on it, and fully acknowledge that. I think you have officers' view there in terms of the types of materials and the form of the building. Actually picking up on some of the detail in and materials palette that's evident elsewhere in the conservation area. So particularly the brick hue, use of stone detail and so forth. So I think there are elements there that reflect that it's broader context. Likewise, there are elements of this building would actually accord with the design code, particularly the proportionality of the top, middle, and lower half of it, and the distinction between those elements of the building, which I think again is reflected in the advice. And I think the point that has also been made by members around the extant permission there, I think you would have to be minded as members that if you felt the design was sufficiently bad, it could withstand an appeal in that sense. So, you know, on that grounds alone. So you have my advice in terms of, you know, the points around the impact on the historic environment, bearing in mind that extant permission there and the fact there was no objections at that point on heritage grounds when that permission was granted. So again, I think that creates a difficulty should this arrive at appeal at any point in the future. So probably leave it there for me, Chair.
Thank you for that, Andy. Okay, nobody else is signalling. We have a proposal and a second on the table. So we'll go to the roll call voters.
Are you clear on the reason? Refusal?
No, we're not.
No. Are you able to,
Thank you.
sorry, are you able to elaborate on your reasons for the refusal as it's gone against Officer recommendation?
Yes, so my proposal is that we refuse on the grounds that it doesn't meet MPPF 130, that it doesn't, as argued by the Big Town Plan.
Could you tell us exactly what is that?
So 130.
Sorry.
Well, 130 is about whether the design will function well and add to the overall quality of the area, for example. Visually attractive as a result of good architecture, layout and appropriate and effective landscaping, sympathetic to local character, establish or maintain a strong sense of place using, I'm reading out the whole thing now. So you know, the Big Town Plan have argued that it doesn't actually, that the plan, that this proposal does not meet those 130 requirements, and I'm simply reiterating that point.
It's just too big. I
Big pardon, it's fine.
Jeff.
Okay, so will function that it doesn't contribute to the lifetime of the area because it doesn't comply with the aspirations of the Big Town Plan.
Exactly.
I'm not.
Maybe not. No.
Okay.
Can I interact here, please, a minute? I'm a bit concerned about a reason for refusal relying on the Big Town Plan. Is that what weight has that got?
No, I'm using the arguments of the Big Town Plan. In the reason for the refusal, I think I've said it several times now, is that it does not meet MPPF 130.
Right.
The arguments for that not reaching 130 have been made by the Big Town Plan.
Right. Okay. So you're suggesting you refuse it because it doesn't comply with the NPPF paragraph 130.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Most planning reasons and things that you can read it both ways actually, but there you go. It's what's in front of us now. So now we'll go to the vote. Thank you, Ken.
Okay. So we've got a proposal and a seconder to refuse the officer recommendation on the basis that it doesn't comply with 130 of the NPPF. If you could indicate whether you're voting for or against, please. Joyce Barrow?
Against.
Gary Burchett?
Against.
Steve Charmley?
Against.
Mary Davies?
For.
Jeff Elmer?
Against.
Roger Evans?
Against. Sorry. For rejection.
For rejection.
For rejection.
Okay. Ed Clark?
For.
Julian Dean?
For.
Vincent?
I'm against that proposition.
Paul Wynn?
Against.
6 against and 4 for.
Thank you, Kim.
So it fails.
Okay, that's failed. Thank you, Gary.
I'll probably accept the officer's recommendations. Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second then?
Well, I'll second. I'd already told him I was going to make the
We've already
proposal.
got a proposal to approve from Bishop earlier.
Yeah.
Well, he said I would.
Oh, he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll stop it in. I'll second it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I move or second or whatever we're
Are
doing
you
now,
moving in second?
that we go with the officer.
Proposing seconding, okay? Get that right.
Chairman, if I can
Yep.
speak to that, is that whether I've missed it or whether it's standard or not, given the site, I cannot see anything about working times and conditions on it. Would officers be including that in their conditions when they look at it, if it is passed? Because where it is and the times when operation could be quite important to the accessibility around that area.
I can't remember any condition put on. Can I just have a look, please? Give me a minute.
It's condition 10, construction, traffic management.
I thought it
plans.
was.
There we go. Okay, yeah.
You've got in front of you, haven't you?
Yes, this condition 10 is construction traffic management plan. Are you referring to working on site though?
If I can, Chairman, yes, I see it delegated to officers, but I'm just wanting reassurance that due to the high visibility of that site, times that it's working and also the days, for example, Sundays, Saturday afternoon, etc., things like that. So I would hope that that can be taken into consideration.
It can.
Okay. Yeah, you happy with that motion secondness?
Yeah.
Okay. Joyce, did you want to say anything? No, okay. All right, we'll do the roll call, please.
So this is to accept the officer recommendation as set out in the report. So if you could indicate whether you're voting for or against, please. Joyce Barry. For. Mary Burchett.
For.
Steve Charmley.
For.
Mary Davies.
Against.
Jeff Elmer.
For.
Roger Evans.
Against.
Ted Clark.
Against.
Julian Dean.
Against.
Vincent.
For.
And Paul Wynn.
For.
Six four, I'm sorry. Yeah, it's gone 6-4, so that application's been approved. Okay, moving on to sorry. Yes, okay. Right. So, screens for,
Yeah.
the screen's not working, so you have to pause for a second. You chit chat.
Chair. This is an application for the construction of 2 poultry sheds with feed divisions and associated ancillary works at land south of Hollins Lane, Newport Road, Woods Eaves, Market Drayton. It's there's an existing poultry rearing operation there at the moment, which includes 2 buildings at present. The application proposes 2 further buildings, which would increase the number of birds at the site by 232,000. You can see on the site plan there the existing 2 sheds, which are just outside the red line, and a biomass boiler building to the west of that, which is used in conjunction with the operation. The 2 proposed sheds are within the area edged red, which would also include an area of tree planting and drainage works. The nearest properties are to the north. You can see just to the north of the 2 ponds. That's it, where the cursor is. And then there's a canal to the east, which is in a cutting and a with wooded steep banks either side of it. The access to the existing site is from the west, from the A529, which is in red, along where the cursor is moving here. This is a plan showing the site and the applicant's ownership or part of it in blue. Next one. This is the proposed site plan with the existing site plan with existing sheds. The proposed ones will be to the bottom of that plan, but that plan isn't showing north upwards. Next one. This is the proposed site plan. You can see where the existing sheds would go, just to the east of the proposed sheds, to the east of the existing ones, and the biomass boiler to the west. So the new sheds will be in line with and identical to in scale and design as the existing sheds. This proposed site plan in a bit more detail, showing the area of tree planting in dark green to the east and northeast and south, wrapping around, and the 2 ponds as well in blue. And then you can see the canal cutting to the east. This one. This is the floor plans and elevations. The buildings will be of a fairly standard design. The 2 buildings would actually be equivalent to 4 normal sized poultry buildings. They're just linked together as 2 buildings. And you can see the proposed elevations of the feed bins to the bottom right of the plan there. Next one. This shows the proposed drainage layout plan, which includes a series of drainage channels and underground tanks and a surface water scheme, which links into a pond, which would then link into a channel, which would go towards a watercourse to the east. Takes them through some photographs. Some members will be aware of the site because we have been to it before in relation to a biomass boiler building, which you can just see on that photograph on the left-hand side there. So this is the existing sheds looking towards the east. The existing sheds looking back towards the. This is looking from the northeast, and this is a plan showing where the new sheds will be located, just to the left-hand side there of the existing ones. And this is the view from the opposite end, where the sheds will be located, just to the right-hand side of the existing ones, just behind the material stockpiles there. So in terms of matters to be raised, you will have seen the additional representation received on the sheet which was circulated yesterday from the, we've also had an additional comment from the Sutton Turn Parish Council as well, who reaffirmed their objections to the proposal with concern about the doubling of the number of poultry units, which would they have an overwhelming environmental impact. They referred to multiple odour related complaints and circumstantial evidence about an impact being caused on the canal cutting and the Turnley Locks towpath being regularly flooded. They've raised an impact on tourism from boat mooring and access to walks along the canal, and also in relation to other development works that have been permitted on the site, including a battery energy facility. They're concerned about additional construction activity and impacts in the local area. So you'll see from the report that there's been detailed set of information submitted in relation to the application, which was submitted some time ago and has raised a number of issues over that period of time. The Canal and River Trust have now removed their objection in relation to the impacts or potential impacts on the canal, and are happy now that detailed matters can be agreed by planning condition, and that these will prevent impacts on the canal and the stability of the cutting. There's no objection from the highways officer regarding the increase in vehicle movements, and the existing access is of a good standard to accommodate this. In terms of ammonia emissions, it's proposed that air scrubber units will be fitted to the new sheds and also 2 of the existing ones, and that would result in a significant reduction in overall ammonia emissions. There would also be mitigation, which would include the manure being arising from the proposal would not be spread on the land, taken to an anaerobic digester. Additional mitigation would be the planting up of woodland, as shown on the plans, to capture ammonia. The main issue with the application is one of the potential impacts of odour emissions. The expanded operation would increase ammonia levels, which have been arising from the proposed operation. The application is supported by a detailed odour impact assessment, which has modelled the likely total odour levels of the existing sheds and those proposed additional ones. You will note from the report that there have been numerous odour complaints made in relation to the current operation, and the Environment Agency has said that they have investigated these on a small number of occasions, and they have not been able to substantiate any of the complaints. The applicant's odour consultant and an odour consultant employed by a group of residents disagree between themselves on the adequacy of the submitted odour impact assessment. However, the Council's Regulatory Services Officer advises that the standard guidance on odour assessment does state that considerable weight should normally be given to matters such as complaints analysis. At present, the submitted odour assessment has not done this and has not acknowledged the level of complaints that have been made in relation to current operations. Officers consider that this needs to be rectified in order for officers to have sufficient confidence in the findings of the assessment, and this can be done by providing a more comprehensive odour assessment. In summary, therefore, officers consider that other than the matters raised by odour, the proposal represents an acceptable scheme. However, the existing number of complaints that have been received to the current operation should not be ignored and should be taken into account in the applicant's assessment of what odour levels and impacts would be. Therefore, officers recommend that permission is refused due to insufficient odour assessment as part of the EIA application. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. We have 2 written statements and 1 speaker today, which Kim will read out, please. First one's from Sutton Parish Council.
Okay, Sutton upon Tern Parish Council reaffirm our objections to the proposal of additional development on the site. There is concern the doubling of the number of poultry units will have an overwhelming environmental impact on the area. Along with the multiple odour-related complaints from nearby residents, there is circumstantial evidence provided by residents that the existing development is causing impact on the Woods Eaves cutting and Hiley Locks towpath being regularly flooded, where previously it was a rare occurrence. This makes tourism from boat mooring and access to walks along the canal an issue, which is hindering the council's aim to promote both these activities. With biomass boilers in place already on the site, and also a yet to be constructed battery energy storage system, we believe any additional construction activity will cause further issues and be difficult to mitigate against. Therefore, we recommend refusal. Okay, and then there's a statement from Rob Gittins, who says, "Dear North Shropshire Planning Committee, thank you for agreeing to look at this application at committee. This application was first submitted around 4 years ago, and I'm very disappointed that it's taken this long to get to a determination, which has caused great distress to residents and has most likely caused great frustration to the applicant as well. In future, I would like to see these sorts of applications determined far quicker. The application itself has been very divisive, with residents from Woods Eaves and Turley raising concerns about environmental impact, traffic movements and public health concerns. If I could draw members' attention to the canal at the rear of the site, which is not only a site of special scientific interest, but is a huge attraction, with visitors coming not only from the UK, but internationally as well. It is believed that the proximity of the site to the canal would have a detrimental effect on wildlife and visitor enjoyment due to the site and the size of the buildings and the potential odour, as well as potential leaching of fluids into the soil, which would most probably run down to the canal. These comments of concern have also been raised from the local community. Therefore, I do believe on this occasion and on balance that the case officer has come to the correct decision and would kindly ask the committee to refuse this application as advised from the case officer. Many thanks."
Thank you, Kim. We have a speaker now, Nick Williams, agent for that. Forward, please.
Yeah, for clarification, we didn't say who Rob Gittins was. She just said it's not Rob Gittins.
Sorry about that. Yeah, Shropshire local member. He's a local member. Okay.
Yeah. Right, Nick, 3 minutes when you start speaking.
Yeah, afternoon members. On behalf of the applicant, we are requesting that the determination of this application be deferred today. On Monday morning last week, we received committee notification from Shropshire Council that the recommendation was to grant planning permission. On Monday afternoon, we received a further notification from the council, instead saying that they'd be recommending refusal today. The last minute U-turn is on the back of comments from Shropshire Council Public Protection Team, who at the 11th hour have stated that additional odour survey work could be required. This is despite the odour methodology being agreed in full with Public Protection, with the previous comments from them confirming no objection to the proposal on odour grounds. Detailed discussions and correspondence between Joe Chanter of the Public Protection Team and Matt Stoling, the applicant's experienced odour consultant, took place on the 8th, 9th, 16th and 19th of June this year, where the odour methodology was agreed in full, and on the 6th of July, the Public Protection consultation response confirmed no objection, with no further queries to the submission. Of course, if there had been any further information requested, this would have been supplied at that time. Despite the proposal not changing since their previous response, a request for additional information appeared online only last week, giving the applicant no time to respond. Despite this, the applicant's odour consultant has already provided a response to these comments, which members would have seen in the schedule of additional letters. I understand the Public Protection Team and the Environment Agency have been reconsulted on these comments, but their consultation responses have not yet returned. As such, it is requested that determination of this application is deferred to allow these consultation responses to return, to allow an appropriately informed decision to be made. The officer report confirms this matter can be rectified, and as such, the application should be deferred, given the lateness of the additional information request, to allow time for the Public Protection Team and EA consultation responses to return, and to allow the applicant to provide additional information if deemed necessary. A similar deferral was agreed by members at the 10th of October committee for the earlier discussed poultry application. The officer report confirms all other issues have been adequately resolved, with the late odour request the only outstanding issue. Therefore, we ask to be given the additional time to resolve this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Well, you've heard it. Joyce?
Sorry, I'm just wondering if we can discuss the application and defer it if we think it is likely to be refused for them to get the additional information, or whether we can delegate on the understanding that planners are happy with the odour.
Can't do that, Joyce, because it's got to come to committee of the sides of it. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, so it's got to come to committee anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
But there has been a short timescale to get the information back to the council. We debate it. I feel that it should be deferred personally, but I'm just one of everybody. Gary?
Thanks, Jeremy. Can we ask Kelvin the reasons why the decision was changed within half a day from granted to refused, and why the odour emission rules haven't been taken into consideration sooner?
Often you'll find that we're up against time constraints to get reports ready and everything. That's what happened on this occasion, that we received a fairly detailed report which was commissioned by residents, which was undertaken by an odour consultant of some repute, who also co-wrote the national guidance on odour assessments for planning. And so we had to give due consideration to that at a very late stage, when we had already committed to bringing the application to this particular committee. So as in my report, I was happy with a lot of the information that had been provided, and it wasn't until that late stage that odour report had come in from that odour consultant, who raised very valid comments of a fairly technical nature, which we then had to deal with a very short turnaround time. It, in my opinion, has identified an omission with the odour impact assessment, which, given the number of complaints that we've received, we cannot ignore. There might be nothing to any of these complaints, but until we've actually properly considered them, I think it's right that we make sure that the odour assessment that we have is fully comprehensive and deals with that matter. And the reason why, as the agent has mentioned, that a letter went out saying approval and then later on saying refusal, that was merely an administrative error. On our system, the original recommendation was for approval. In the haste to get the report out, that wasn't updated, and so the letters went out with approval. However, I explained that to the agent, and I also explained that to the parish council on that day. So I don't think anybody was particularly inconvenienced by it.
No, Kelvin. James?
Thank you. I have to say at the beginning of this, I was very minded to go with the officer's recommendation, but now that we've had this extra information, or more importantly, now that officers have had this extra information, I do believe, and I will be moving, that we go for a deferral. The decisions that we make here can only be made based on the information that we have, and clearly we have just discovered that we don't have all of the information right, that we need to make this the correct, what we believe to be the correct decision and a lawful decision. So based on that, and based on the request, and based on the earlier application as well, which we're treating the same, I move that we do defer this, so that the information that we know is missing can be supplied, and then I believe we can make the correct decision. So I move for a deferral.
Thank you. I have two before you now, okay? Joyce?
I'd like to second it, please.
Thank you. Jeff?
I was
wanted to second it. I just want to say that it has been deferred, and we need to get it right. So I do agree we should defer it. Thank you.
No.
Yes, I mean, I'm actually supporting deferral at this stage. But I would also like to say that would it be at all possible if we can go back to see if Newcastle under Lyme Borough Council and their EHO, because they are the adjacent authority, if they are actually going to supply any comments. I am, to put it politely, surprised that with such with a site of such potential impact right against their borders and indeed their heritage assets, that have seen cannot reply to a question. So I just thought I'd make that point.
Good point, because to do. And so the canal is the boundary, is it?
No, not quite.
Okay, right. Can we have a response on that, please, Calvin? Can we have a response from the council?
Yes.
Okay, right.
That's Calvin's view. We're both going to say the same things like that Calvin said.
Yes. Right, so.
Yes.
Nothing to say, because that's it.
No, all we can do is consult, and
Yeah,
you know, we haven't and assume that they've received the consultation, and I can't recall ever having a response back from them on other applications that we've consulted them on this particular site either. It may well be because that they're not aware of any particular issues. I don't know, but we will certainly, you know, can
seek a response, not necessarily guarantee one.
Yeah.
Thanks, Calvin. Okay, we have a proposal. Second, the roll call, I suppose, should we?
Yeah, okay.
Okay, roll call.
Okay, so we've got a proposal seconder to defer the matter for the information that's been requested. Joyce Barrow or Gary Burchett
or
Steve Charmley
or
Mary Davis or Jeff Elmer
or
Roger Evans
or
Ted Clark
or
Julian Dean
or
Nat Green
or
Vincent
or
and Paul Wynne.
Yeah, so that's been heard. So item 9, appeals and appeal decisions. Good.
I have no comment to make this month. No comment. They are as seen.
Yeah. Just where everybody goes, we'll go offline now, if you would, please. Yeah. Officially close the meeting. Date of next meeting is on